Hey Carter County, I'm Michael Dean Smith, and this is Carter Observer. Joining me on this February 2024 is Ardmore City Commissioner John Credle Jr., who represents Ardmore's 2nd Ward. Credle was first elected to the commission in 2021 and will continue to fill that seat until 2027. Commissioner Credle, thanks so much for joining Carter Observer.
Oh, good to be able to do it, Michael.
Let's just jump right into it. How are you feeling about winning an uncontested second term to the Ardmore Commission?
I'm feeling very grateful and excited. I love the city of Ardmore. It's a city that I didn't grow up in, and I came to in 2015. But every year, I've grown to love it more and more. And with every experience, I've loved it more and more. And to serve the community by being on the commission another term is an honor, and even more of an honor that I guess some of the citizens must agree or love what I'm doing because I had no opposers.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
In 2021, that was your first time running for office, is that right?
Yes.
And in that race, you had 3 other challengers.
I did.
Considering you had 3 challengers to get into your first term, no challengers for your second,
right.
What does that tell you about your first term in office?
So, understand the first term, and the reason why there was that interest was there because even Dave Plesher, who's the other person who didn't have any challenges, he even had I think 1 or 2 others. And he had none as well this time. And I think the reason was that was a historic time because we had just lost one of Ardmore's longtime commissioners, Martin Dyer, who did some tremendous work here in Ardmore, and he's the Southwest commissioner where Dave Plesher is now. And also the other commissioner was John Moore, who was there, I want to say, 25 years. And I hope I got that number right. He always says I'm giving him more years than he actually had. But I think it is 25 that he served before I became commissioner. And the only reason I had that opportunity is he stepped down because of course, he was great at what he did, and I think if he still wanted to do it, he still would be able to do it.
Sure.
So he decided it was something that he no longer wished to do, and he wanted it to be passed on to somebody else that citizens wanted. So I was only able to do that because John Moore felt it was time. So. I feel definitely honored, and I think the citizens this second time around. I think the citizens don't always agree with everything the commission decides, or I can't even say are always happy about some of the things the commission decides. But I think what they see is a good working group. I think they're seeing Ardmore growing in a healthy way. And I think they're also seeing that things are being done in comparison when you look at other communities and that are around us. I think they can be proud of what we're doing here in Ardmore and the things we're building here in Ardmore. And it's a lot to be said about consistency. And to have a consistent group like this is great, I think, for a city.
So it sounds like there's a bit of confidence then, even though there weren't any challengers. It sounds like things are going on the right path. Considering though, and you even mentioned that Plesher didn't have any challengers as well, that seems to be the norm here in Carter County. I was doing some research, and of the 7 local races in Carter County, 6 of them were uncontested.
Right.
Why do you think that's such a trend in Carter County? Why do you think locals aren't running for local offices in droves, or even one challenger in some of these races?
Well, one is commission is not easy work. It's a lot of time that you give up, yourself, and and sometimes it's a thankless job as well. And you have to know that you're not there for yourself. You're there for the citizens, and you have to be a good representation of those citizens. And when I say the citizens, not just the Northeast citizens that I, because that's my ward, but all citizens of Ardmore. And I think I don't take the lack of somebody wanting to do it as just not wanting to do it, but more so because there's a weight of responsibility there, and some people understand that responsibility.
Let me go back to that. Some people understand that responsibility.
Some people understand that responsibility and know who they are, and just know that I can support my community another way, but this may not be a thing I should pursue. And you got to respect that. It took a lot of thought for me to first decide to do it. It took a lot of thought, a lot of prayer, and just wondering, will I be any good at that? And the first term, I'm not just the first year. The whole first term is pretty much is a lot of learning.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm still there's still some things I'm learning. However, I've learned a lot, and I believe I have more to stand on for the second term. I'm excited about it.
Would you like to see more people getting involved in the political arena, qualifying for races, or even just kind of getting involved with some of the smaller boards and things like that?
I would definitely like to see. A lot of times, and I sit on some other boards and different things that like that. And a lot of times, you see a lot of the same faces, and there's so many talented, gifted people here in Ardmore that I know would be an asset. Just not even if it's municipal work, but even just like you said, sitting on boards and school boards, foundations, different things like that. That I think would be. I can, as I'm talking, I see some people in my head, and of course I wouldn't say their name, but I see some people that can really make a difference, and I try to do my best to encourage them to do so. But again, when you have a family, when you have children, you think about, and I don't know if I would have pursued this if my children were. All of them were school age, and they were 5 years old, 6 years old. I don't know if I could see myself doing this work at that time, because it's time consuming to do it right.
Well, let's look at the next 3 years, at least in Ardmore, especially while you're going to be on the commission. I remember last year during budget discussions, there was a lot of talk about the houseless population here in Ardmore. Specifically, there was a request for city funds to be used to help the operating costs from an outside agency. Ultimately, that specific request was denied, but should City Hall be budgeting funds to help benefit some of Ardmore's more vulnerable populations?
There are some things that are coming. We just came out of retreat, Michael. So there are some things that the city is doing, incentives, so that realtors will come in and actually build some affordable housing. Okay. And so there are talks of that. And the city does things to support organizations like the Grace Center. They have, and still do. And so I think the city does have a responsibility to do something. Take on, I don't think anyone, not even the city itself. I think when it comes to homelessness, when it comes to displacement of people within the community because of they're just not making enough to make ends meet and things like that, I don't think it's a problem of just the city. But I think it's the city in combination with the foundations and with the churches, all coming together to see this as a need that needs to be met. And do I think the city plays a part in that? I think the city plays a very vital part in that, and is doing some work. It's sometimes the work is not like people want to see it, but I think we are doing something to move that forward in a positive way to help.
As you were talking about that, you mentioned that there's a lot of players involved, a lot of the different agencies involved. Is City Hall should City Hall be waiting on some of these outside agencies to kind of lead the charge? So should City Hall be leading the charge and offering recommendations or suggestions? Who should be leading this?
So City Hall leading the charge. I don't even think it's the city that should be the leaders of this charge. I think it depends where you're at. I think at times it should be the city. At times it should be the churches. There are times it should be the foundations. I think it has to be a collaborative effort. The problem is too great to put the weight on just one entity. And if we're not all doing it together, we're going to have an increase in homelessness. We're going to have a shifting to where we'll help some, then some others will come, and it'll be a constant. But if everybody's involved, and if we have all hands on deck, I think we'll serve the homeless population better. I think we'll be able to meet a lot of needs better if we can, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, back in 2022, Ardmore had hired a new police chief. Mm-hmm. About a year later, he was placed on administrative leave, and his employment ended back in December of 2023. Now, while I know there's not a lot you or City Hall can release for privacy reasons, what did you learn from that experience as a member sitting on the commission from watching the city hire a police chief and then seeing that police chief no longer working with the city? What did you learn as a commissioner from watching that experience?
Well, one, I will say proper vetting went into the selection of the police chief that's no longer with us, and research was done. Even a committee, what I liked was a committee of citizens from Ardmore was able to help our city manager, because this selection, this hire is totally the hire of the city manager. The commissioners really do not play a role in the hiring of the police chief. Okay. So it's completely city manager's hire. However, what I like about our city manager is he didn't just make the decision on his own. He asked our opinion. What would we like to see in a chief of police? He asked the commissioners that. He asked as well as he put together a sort of advisory committee. I'm calling it that because I can't remember what the name was, but I think it was like an advisory committee that was able to narrow down the search to, I believe it was 3 names. Okay. And then they gave their recommendation based on some things that they heard from the community, like community want to see more community policing, officers that really got to know the people who live within the community. They wanted to see police officers being more involved in like community events. Whereas if it was not just the sports games, things like that, but even the holiday things like HFE, they do this big event called Breakfast with Santa, and the different events that the community comes to. Because if that relationship is there, in the good times you have to encounter law enforcement, and in not so good times, because that relationship is there, that it kind of helps those types of situations, when those unfortunate situations. So these were the things that the city, that the community were concerned about. So all these things were brought to the table. So I would say in this next go around, I wouldn't expect that we would do anything less than what we did to when I say we, I mean city manager. I know he was not going to do anything less than what he did to select this city manager. This chief of police, but rather probably even go a step, even further to secure somebody good. It's somebody who wants to be in Ardmore. I think that's important to have somebody that's not just looking for a job, but somebody who can say why they would want to be in a community such as this and make this community such as this their home. I think that's important.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, Ardmore City Commissioner John Credle Jr., thank you so much for joining us here on Carter Observer.
Thanks for having me.